start off again. So we're going through Samuel. We've gotten through chapter 6, and that's not the one I wanted. And chapter 6. So we're on chapter 7 today. And if you can remember, what we've been talking about is that you have Eli, that it kind of shown that he wasn't like the best father and all that stuff, wasn't the best judge, I guess you could say, prophet over Israel. Didn't really know what was going on. The Jews is what I call this one, but the Hebrew Study Bible, they're much more kind to him. They're also, what I thought was interesting. Did you guys who have this one? Did you read ahead? Yeah. They're pretty kind to Saul, which I was kind of surprised about.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. Like, so King Saul and kind of what everything over there, they're pretty kind to that. So that'll be fun when we get to there. But we have Eli and then we have kind of the advent of Samuel, who's coming in, who's kind of like the last great judge, this prophet kind of idea going forward. And they end up bringing out the ark to win a battle, lose the ark, and it now has come back. And so, there's all kinds of things that boils and all that stuff. And so the ark is back. So the last few verses of chapter 6, I'll just read, and then we'll go into chapter 7. So verse 20 of chapter 6. And the men of Beth Shemesh said, "Who is able to stand before this holy Lord God? And to whom shall it go up from us?" So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kirjath Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have brought back the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it with you." All right. So I just wanted to kind of read that there. Pam, it's good to see you. All right. So let's share the screen, and I don't know how far we'll read, but I'll stop us at some point. It might be the whole chapter 7. I don't really see. It's not very long, so that's probably what it'll be. Share sound, optimize for video, share. Okay, here we go.
Then the men of Kirjath Jearim came and took the ark of the Lord, and brought it into the house of Abinadab on the hill, and consecrated Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. So it was that the ark remained in Kirjath Jearim a long time. It was there 20 years. And all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. Then Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel.
"If you return to the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths from among you, and prepare your hearts for the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines."
So the children of Israel put away the Baals and the Ashtoreths, and served the Lord only. And Samuel said,
"Gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you."
So they gathered together at Mizpah, drew water, and poured it out before the Lord. And they fasted that day, and said there,
"We have sinned against the Lord."
And Samuel judged the children of Israel at Mizpah. Now when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel had gathered together at Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the children of Israel heard of it, they were afraid of the Philistines. So the children of Israel said to Samuel,
"Do not cease to cry out to the Lord our God for us, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines."
And Samuel took a suckling lamb, and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. Then Samuel cried out to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered him. Now as Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. But the Lord thundered with a loud thunder upon the Philistines that day, and so confused them that they were overcome before Israel. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and drove them back as far as below Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shen, and called its name Ebenezer.
Thus far, the Lord has helped us.
So the Philistines were subdued, and they did not come any more into the territory of Israel. And the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. Then the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel, from Ekron to Gath, and Israel recovered its territory from the hands of the Philistines. Also, there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. He went from year to year on a circuit to Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all those places. But he always returned to Ramah, for his home was there. There he judged Israel, and there he built an altar to the Lord.
Okay. All right. So kind of what's the main idea that's happening in this chapter here? There's kind of
It's converting to back to God, away from the.
yeah. So what does Samuel do? What does Samuel do? Like all that. So the ark's not there, and he basically says kind of what Cheryl says, like, hey, return to the Lord and
away those two gods. And
yeah.
worshiping.
Yep. So they put away the balls and the Ashtoreth, and serve the Lord only. And then what? Yeah, go ahead.
Question, verse 6. Why did they pour water out on the ground?
Why do they pour water? So let me look at that. So they at Mizpah and drew water and poured it out before the Lord. They fasted that day and said, "We have sinned against the Lord." All right, I'm not sure. let me look at this note real quick.
My footnote doesn't say anything about it.
So I have a footnote that talks about it.
Yeah,
Let's see here.
the annual pouring out of water is mentioned nowhere else in the Bible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this one kind of adds to it. So libations is kind of what they were calling it, are attested throughout the ancient Near East. Water libations in Mesopotamia and Syria, Canaan, appear to have been offered as drink for the gods, just as animal sacrifices represent food for the gods. For ancient Israel, however, such practice appeared to have been emptied in their literal significance, even while being retained for festivals. So,
There's a note here that says in the Second Temple period, water was poured out on the festival, easy for you to say,
Yeah.
festival of Sukkot, probably as a request for rain. But it was done as a request for remission of sins, just as our prayer, fasting, and confession.
So, I think you can kind of look at it and connect it to that idea of fasting type of thing. So, kind of a fasting from water type of idea. It could be something. Has anyone read Dune? There's a science fiction book named Dune from the 60s. They just made a new movie about it, and the movie's great. Like that. There's one of the what do they call them? They have all these crazy names for stuff, but they're a desert faring people. And one of the things they do as kind of a sign of peace, these desert faring people, is they spit on the ground. Other cultures that meet them are always very upset about this because it looks like they're like disgracing them, but it's a symbol of peace that they're giving some of the moisture from their body and things like that. So like you think about we know this is a pretty dry area of the world. And so, you could see if they're already fasting and pouring out that water as part of that fast, kind of like a sacrifice of devotion, maybe. So
Cleaning up their act.
cleaning up their act like that. So
They mean different things in different parts of the world. A lot of families and moms and dads use time out here. You don't do that, and that means up yours. Found that out in a lip reading class.
yeah. So like that could be what it means. I don't really know. They're just kind of seeing what they're talking about here, because I mean that's an important like distinction. That's what I try to talk about. Like this stuff and these people lived in cultures that are not our own, and we also have to be honest with ourselves when we study the Bible that we are bringing our own cultural biases onto it. Like even if we try to expunge our cultural biases from it, we still are bringing it. Type of thing like that. Like that's not wrong. It's just being aware of it, and it's like, well, maybe I'm having a bias here, and things like that. So that's, but it also helps when you kind of can realize what the world looked like back then. So maybe I said something true there. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. It makes sense in my mind right now. All right. So what else is going on? So we see that that Samuel implores them to turn from their ways, and they turn back, and kind of what happened?
They even made peace with the Amorites.
They made peace with the Amorites.
The Philistines were defeated.
The Philistines were defeated. Kind of that loud. They were afraid of the Philistines, and then the Lord, caused loud thunder upon the Philistines that day, and so they were confused, and they were able to be conquered. And then it kind of talks about that they're kind of in this time of peace for a while. So what I think what that is doing is it's setting us up to feel a certain way about Samuel. How do we feel about Samuel?
Good leader.
He's a good leader, right?
Good dude.
Peacemaker.
Why did his sons turn out so badly?
Samuel or Eli?
Eli.
Well, that's Samuel too, right? Yeah. So
The example he had from Eli, he would have been a little bit stricter with his son.
yeah.
Smacked them all.
Yeah. Or maybe he smacked him too much. Who knows? But that's so it's so I don't know, but it's interesting here that it really shows like, oh yeah, he definitely kind of led into this time of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this kind of collective idea that they turn towards the Lord, and then there's this time of peace. Now,
They asked for his help. They didn't last time. They just took the ark and said, well,
we do whatever we want.
we'll do it our way. And this time they're saying, please ask him to help us. We're scared.
And so now we have to put on our literature hats. Whenever we're in literature, whenever things are going a little too well and we're nowhere near the end of the story, like that, like what starts happening? Like that. That's
Mookie Ranch time.
Came from Ramah. Now,
Yeah.
Isn't that where the babies were all killed when Jesus?
is it?
Isn't that Ramah?
Is that
in the New Testament?
Oh,
Would that
okay.
be the same place, you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
They don't rename place.
Yeah. Like that's
So that
at least the same idea of the place.
talked about sorrow and Ramah, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah. That's why I was wondering if it was the same.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So we'll remember that as we kind of continue to go through there. But he always returned to Ramah, for his home was there. Yeah, no, that's interesting. So we'll remember that. Okay, so let's move on to chapter 8.
I was going to
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
mention
No, you're fine.
earlier in the Jewish Bible in the notes, it said that the Philistines were the descendants of the Palestinians.
Okay.
And you think about that, and today, I mean,
In today's world.
Oh yeah.
they've been at war.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, all these folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that cradle of civilization. I can't talk today. Yeah,
Words aren't coming.
I can't do it today. So, all right. So let's
Drinking the same wine. Like
yeah. Let's see here. So yeah, let's do 8. We'll probably do the whole thing again. So, I gotta hit my buttons, and here we go. And let's see, go to 8. All right, here we go.
Now it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, took bribes, and perverted justice.
Glorious.
Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah.
Look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." So Samuel prayed to the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel,
Heed the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, with which they have forsaken me and served other gods, so they are doing to you also. Now, therefore, heed their voice. However, you shall solemnly forewarn them, and show them the behavior of the king who will reign over them.
So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who asked him for a king.
This will be the behavior of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariots. He will appoint captains over his thousands, and captains over his 50s, will set some to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and some to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers, and he will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, and your olive groves, and give them to his servants. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your vintage, and give it to his officers and servants. And he will take your male servants, your female servants, your finest young men, and your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take 1/10 of your sheep, and you will be his servants. And you will cry out in that day because of your king, whom you have chosen for yourselves, and the Lord will not hear you in that day.
Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel.
No, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us, and go out before us and fight our battles.
And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he repeated them in the hearing of the Lord. So the Lord said to Samuel,
Heed their voice, and make them a king.
And Samuel said to the men of Israel,
Every man, go to his city.
Okay. Okay, so we got some stuff going on here. There's some big things that I saw here. So what are the things that you guys saw? So we see Gloria's talk of the sons, and that seems to be kind of the impetus for like, oh, hey, we need a king.
God was still in charge.
Yeah.
All through that chapter.
Yeah, God is still,
He's still the one that's saying, you're going to have a king, but I'm telling you, you're going to have a king.
Yeah.
It's not your choice, it's mine.
Yeah.
That's what my...
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, God is still, his hand is still over the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah. Even
though he's rejected.
Yeah. Even though it's going away.
Right.
So, and so let's see here. So what else do you see? Like, right. so they ask for a king, and in what way do they ask for a king? What else are they saying in connection with wanting a king? So I think this is important.
That the fellas aren't treating them fairly. Is that what you
So they're over there. They want a king just like
everybody else.
Everyone else.
But they want to be like they want to be like all the other nations.
I want to go back to my Israel.
Yeah. So that's the connection that I'm making is what Cheryl just said, is that it sounds like when they want to go back to Egypt, and this I think when I realized that, and I realized that being a pastor here, is this sense of them constantly want to going back to Egypt, back to these other things, kind of going. So all through the wilderness, we even see those things come up again in the Kings with Solomon and all of that they want Egyptian horses and like that's all these things. And you can kind of get a sense of in Deuteronomy that it's like, it keeps talking about going back to Egypt, but it's using it as a metaphor for like going after the power and the looks of these other nations. So I think they're kind of like giving us giving away their hand type of thing there, that they kind of want to go back there. And so they follow after God, right? And yet here they are kind of rejecting God. At least that's how it's being written down here. And Samuel's displeased. And God says they're rejecting me, not you, because the way the judges were set up is kind of a theocracy, where they're following after God and he's a true king. Jesus brings up this language again in all this kingdom of God talk, that all these things. That's still it's still a very poignant question to this day. About what does it mean to live in the kingdom of God type of thing. And so let's see what else is good. What else did you notice in this section? Anything stick out to you? How is it going to go for them? So Samuel told them the words of the Lord, and
they're not going to like it.
They're not going to like it.
It's going to sound more like Egypt again.
It sounds like Egypt, right? Like it sounds like all these things, and everything he says kind of makes sense. They're going to take a tenth of everything that you have. They're going to take it like this. Usually when we're doing tithing sermons, we don't quote this stuff either. Like that. Like that. BTW.
Walk on eggs on it.
Yeah. Like that. That's which if you ever notice, I never talk about like 10th stuff or read the verse of the Bible, the 10th things, because I think it's disingenuous because you have this too. And like that's. And so there are all these things that they're not going to like, and let's see here. Verse 18 says, "And you will cry out in that day because of your king whom you have chosen for yourselves, and the Lord will not hear you in that day." Okay, so we're getting, I think, a little bit of prophecy there in how the reign of the kings kind of ends up ending. As they go out, as they are conquered, type of thing. So, nevertheless, the people refuse to obey the voice of Samuel, and they're like, "No, we want a king over us, that we also may be like the other nations." So again, that's brought up again, so we don't lose it, and that a king may judge us and go before us and fight our battles. Now. We're about to be introduced to Saul. One of the attributes of Saul is that he's a head taller than everyone else. Which, big guy. That's weird. We're having like energy spikes over here. So he's a big guy, and I don't know, but it kind of seems like we're alluding to Goliath. So Saul is going to fight the battles. Yet that battle, even though Saul is taller than everyone else, he won't fight and all those things. So I don't know how valid that is, but it really seems like he'll go fight our battles for us is also kind of saying like they're not going to get what they want and all these things.
It says the king's going to do for the king, not for the people.
Yeah.
He also, says that.
Yeah.
It's going to be you're going to do stuff for him.
Yeah.
He's not going to do stuff for you.
Yes.
Sounds like our rich politicians.
Yeah. and then you see it. Well, and the people, in all honesty, are probably like, well, look at Samuel's sons. Like, we already got that, like that. And, but yeah, like that's, what was I going to say? I don't remember. But yeah, so the Lord goes like, heed their voice and make them king, make them a king. So I think that's, again, you see that God's hand is there. And this is why, like, in a lot of the teaching that I do, is that even in like the difficult times and the hard times and the things that we even cause and put onto ourselves, the God is still there. Like that's there. There's that's those that it's a Lutheran theology called theology of the cross versus theology of glory. Theology of glory is your attitudes can depend on God's love for you, type of thing. And you even see here, now it does say that the Lord will not hear you in that day. That's a different thing. It's a different thing. But even in these times where they're starting to go away, the God is still there. And that's theology of cross. Theology of glory is like God is far away from you because you pushed him away, type of thing. And that's a tough thing for us all to face in our own lives, because we feel like, oh, God's so far from me. Did I not pray enough? That's not what it's about. So
an old statement I remember from when I was a child, actually, was God is with you whether you want him to be or not.
Yeah. I kind of say that to the kids.
Yeah, because
something like that. Yeah, so like that's that's good. You guys have heard this story before, but it's one of my favorites. Is I had a friend who went with a Baptist church to Guatemala to do like VBS things, and she's a good Lutheran kid growing up and all those things, and they're like, all right, we're getting close to the last day. We need to try to get conversions and all that stuff, because that's kind of what it's about for them. And she's like, well, I've never really been any part of all that. What do I do? She's just trying to be a servant. And they're like, well, tell about the time when you were saved, or so. See, they said it like that. And she's like, oh, like, and she said in the most innocent way possible. And this is how she was explaining it to me. She was just asking me for clarification, but as she's relaying the story to me, she didn't realize what she said. She told them, well, I thought I was saved when Jesus died on the cross. I was like, when I was talking to her, I was like, that was the most Lutheran answer like I've ever heard. like that's, and it just like she's just trying to be helpful. She's trying not to, be annoying to these people. Like she wasn't doing it as a gotcha question. That's not her style. Like that's it was really funny. It was really funny. She actually may watch this. So that's the let's see here. So I don't know. Did anyone else have anything want to say about the desire for kings or anything like that? We're moving today. One
interesting thing I just noticed in the map, in the Jewish study Bible, is that Ramah is actually located in Philistia.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of south of there?
Outside of the hill country of Ephraim. Not in the land of Benjamin.
Not in the land of Benjamin? Okay. So where's it at? Oh, it's up here. Okay.
Just outside.
Okay, just across the line, just across the line. Okay.
That was interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, that's interesting. And I bet that Christmas time kind of talking with the killing of the babies and stuff like that plays in. But Ramah is so close to Jerusalem that there's probably a lot of stuff that happens there. I don't know off the top of my head.
Can you explain a little more about where on 18, where it does say, and the Lord will not hear you in that day? Like you said, that's.
No, I think that kind of sounds like in the when they have to go to Babylon. What's that called?
When the captivity.
Yeah, when they go into the Babylonian captivity and all those things. The way that I've always looked at that, always is a strong word there, but the way I look at that is the Babylonian captivity was finally just a release of God, where it's like, well, if you want to be Babylon so bad, I'm seeing these other kings, all that stuff, you can just be Babylon. And I think that, and then you see how Babylon sacks them and takes them into the whole thing, and then we get Isaiah and Jeremiah and all that stuff, where you have Jeremiah's like live there and type of thing. So so that I've always kind of viewed it as like, if you want to be Babylon so bad, if you want to be this big powerful kingdom so bad, here you can just be Babylon, and it's just a release to them, and that's kind of the judgment as well. And I think you can see that in some of what's going on here, is that is still, they're being allowed to go down that path. And I think that we won't hear you. The thing that struck me in the last chapter was how fickle everybody is. So they're like, we're scared, God help us. And everyone just like starts praying and stuff like that. Like, and he sees them through, but it's like an on-off switch, it seems.
Don't need you now.
Yeah. Like that. And so, and it does talk about how time passed and all those things. But when I was I didn't really have anything to stand on when I was feeling that way. So I was like, eh.
I think the Jewish Study Bible has a more palatable version of that verse.
Yeah.
It says, and the Lord will not answer you on that day.
Okay, yeah.
It's the opposite. Yeah, he'll hear you.
Yeah. So what you just said is how my mind translates that. So like that's so like when he won't hear you, so it's hear you like a kingly request type of thing. Like you won't be, because we have this sense of our biggest issue in Christianity is we have disembodied God that's like always like listening, and we think he's like la 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 la. Like their sense of is like walking into the king's courts and being able to be heard type of thing. Like, so like that's, and so that answer you is it's working in that same type of thing. This is why the Catholics are so big into Mary. Because like medieval Europe, think about medieval Europe, or just think about kings in general. We just, as Americans, we have no concept of this in our minds. They're big into Mary because getting an audience with the king to hear you is very difficult, but you may be able to get an audience with the king's mother or the king's sister or the king's
him on the side.
Yeah. And then she can bring your request to him. And so if you talk to Nelson, that he'll be like, yeah, like that's, and so that's
the saints, which are
and it's kind of that same idea with the saints.
Nelson is my Catholic neighbor for the
like that's yeah. So like that's So yeah, when you allow, it's like, because a lot of people are like, oh, they're just praying to Mary. Well, when you look at it the way they would have looked at it for years until about 200 years ago now, all that makes sense with the courts. So like, I think that's when you hear that, he'll hear you. It's not so much about like, oh, well, la, 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 it's like, think about bringing the requests and like that answer won't come. Like that's
Like having a hearing in court.
Yeah. Like having a hearing in court. Yeah. So I think you're getting closer to how that, and then what you can do, once you know that, you can begin to translate it in your mind about what this is. So that answer you is a good way of looking at that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because, like you said, some of you felt won't hear you. I never even gave a thought to that because it was the way I read it. It was he won't answer you.
Yeah. Because he. So and then that gives the thing where it's like he definitely knows your request, and it's like, and you're not going to get that answer then. Yeah. So all right.
Silence could be authoritative.
Yeah.
As well as discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
I won $1 million, but he's not going to listen to me.
He hears you.
Let's see. How long is 9? 9's pretty long. We may do the whole thing. This is all we get to meet Saul now. Now, this is where the Protestant Bibles kind of disagree with the Jewish Bibles in their notes. So that's kind of fun. So we'll talk about that. So we'll do chapter 9, and we'll kind of walk through it then. All right. So here we go.
There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. And he had a choice and handsome son, whose name was Saul. There was not a more handsome person than he among the children of Israel. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. And Kish said to his son Saul,
"Please take one of the servants with you, and arise. Go and look for the donkeys."
So he passed through the mountains of Ephraim and through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shaalim, and they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they had come to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him,
Come, let us return, lest my father cease caring about the donkeys and become worried about us.
Look now, there is in this city a man of God, and he is an honorable man. All that he says surely comes to pass. So let us go there. Perhaps he can show us the way that we should go.
But look, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread in our vessels is all gone, and there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have?
Look, I have here at hand 1/4 of a shekel of silver. I will give that to the man of God to tell us our way.
Formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he spoke thus, Come, let us go to the seer, for he who is now called a prophet was formerly called a seer. Then Saul said to his servant,
Well said. Come, let us go.
So they went to the city where the man of God was. As they went up the hill to the city, they met some young women going out to draw water.
Is the seer here?
Yes, there he is, just ahead of you. Hurry now, for today he came to this city because there is a sacrifice of the people today on the high place. As soon as you come into the city, you will surely find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now, therefore, go up, for about this time you will find him.
So they went up to the city, As they were coming into the city, there was Samuel coming out toward them on his way up to the high place. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear the day before Saul came, saying,
Tomorrow, about this time, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him commander over my people Israel, that he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people, because their cry has come to me.
So, when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him,
There he is, the man of whom I spoke to you. This one shall reign over my people.
Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate.
Please, tell me, where is the seer's house?
I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let you go, and will tell you all that is in your heart. But as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be anxious about them, for they have been found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and on all your father's house?
Am I not a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel? And my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin. Why then do you speak like this to me?
Now Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the hall, and had them sit in the place of honor among those who were invited. There were about 30 persons. And Samuel said to the cook,
Bring the portion which I gave you, of which I said to you, set it apart.
So the cook took up the thigh with its upper part and set it before Saul.
Here it is, what was kept back. It was set apart for you. Eat, for until this time it has been kept for you, since I said I invited the people.
So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they had come down from the high place into the city, Samuel spoke with Saul on the top of the house. They arose early, and it was about the dawning of the day that Samuel called to Saul on the top of the house.
Get up, that I may send you on your way.
And Saul arose, and both of them went outside, he and Samuel. As they were going down to the outskirts of the city, Samuel said to Saul,
Tell the servant to go on ahead of us.
And he went on.
But you stand here a while, that I may announce to you the word of God.
Okay, I gotta pause it. All right, here we go. Okay, so we get to be introduced to Saul here. Now, so Saul, Benjaminite, so he was, let's see here. So verse 1, we kind of meet his parents and a Benjaminite, and it says a mighty man of power. That's kind of an interesting phraseology there.
Says well.
Of wealth. Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting phraseology. Is that so? What is? Let's see. What is that in these different? So wealth, power. It's about the same thing. Man of substance is what this one says. So pretty powerful guy. And then you have Saul, who is handsome, and taller than anyone else, type of thing, like super tall, head above, and then the donkeys are missing. So here's I think there's two ways that I read that people deal with this. The Hebrew Bible says that it is a happenstance that God often uses weird ways to get people to where they need to be. Like that's kind of how they describe it. some of the Protestant stuff that I looked at, they said that this shows that Saul doesn't know how to shepherd.
Oh.
Yeah. and so like,
okay,
like so I don't know. It could be both. It could, like, all those things. They could be trying to read into that more than they should. But it is kind of funny that they can't find the donkeys, and they never find the donkeys. Those things are. There's some wild donkeys, and, like just running all over the place. So
and then they were found without his help after all.
On their own, I think.
Yeah. So they so you can't. So that's kind of two ways to kind of look at that over there, and let's see. So they go and see the seer. It's kind of interesting that they kind of switch that language in here, which is the prophet. They kind of explain that to us. And let's see. I
like that the people didn't eat until he came.
They didn't eat until
The seer.
Okay. So yeah, there's kind of some reverence for Samuel there.
He had to bless the sacrifice.
Yeah. Bless the sacrifice there. So Samuel meets Saul, and the Lord says, this is verse 17. So when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, there he is, the man of whom I spoke to you. This is the one who shall reign over my people. And so Saul still doesn't know who Samuel is, which makes sense. And so Saul answers this then. So, and this is what I think is interesting. So verse 21 versus like the first verse there. So verse 21, and Saul answered and said, am I not a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families in the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak to me like this? That's interesting.
It follows
modesty.
It follows like Jesus.
Yeah.
Humbleness and.
But he was described a certain way in that first verse.
As
as like
the family was.
Yeah. So he's like,
Pastor, back in verse 19. Samuel tells Saul, I am the seer.
Yeah.
So he does know who he is, right?
Yeah, he does there. He doesn't right before that.
Okay.
Like he does know him there. Like he meets him. So like, because of verse 18, Saul drew near to Samuel in the gates and said, please tell me where the seer's house. And Samuel's like, oh, that's me. You got me. Here I am. And that also sounds. This is just coincidence, but it also sounds like Naaman with Elijah or Elisha. Like that's one of my favorite stories about Elisha. That's when Naaman has to dip in the water to receive cleansing from his leprosy. Let's see here. So
he also said that they used everything up before they got there. So he's going there with nothing.
Yeah.
Just him and his son.
And they have like a quarter of a coin.
Yeah, that's all they have left.
Yeah, that's all.
So how do you even know at that point that he had any wealth to him?
Yeah. And so he's
kind of interesting too that the servant's the one that had the coin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not Saul.
Yeah. So he's carrying the stuff there, and so it's interesting. So that I don't know what to make out of this. I think there's multiple ways that we could think about this, because we're introduced to Saul as being one of means, one of substance, as it says here. Wealth is what NIV says. Power is what the King James said.
Also says that he is he's looked at in a goodly manner.
Yeah.
As a child, he's right after they say his wealth, it's like the next verse or something that says about him, the servants, I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
That he himself is the children of Israel a goodlier person than he. There is no other goodlier person than he. And verse. So even though he's wealthy, maybe he doesn't flaunt it, or it's not a big thing to him. Maybe he's just
I think it's
a good person.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, he is king, like that's over Israel and all that stuff. So, but he says kind of the right things, like I'm the smallest and all that stuff. Another thing that's connected to the Goliath story is that tribe of Benjamin tends to be like kind of a warrior tribe. And so is what I read. I could be wrong on that though.
They're sent ahead a lot in the stories, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it's my knowledge of like the different tribes and their roles is not good. It's not very deep. So like that's, I know Levite, and that's about it.
Right.
So like that's so like
and all those names.
Yeah, I could.
That would be a good study to study it.
Yeah, we could look at that. And so,
yeah, what I read here is that no matter what, God is in control, because if it wouldn't have been for the servant having a tiny little bit of silver, Saul and Samuel would never have met.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was his idea to go there.
They were going to turn back.
He's ready to go back home.
Yeah. So
God took care of that. All right.
So God's taking care of them. And so we didn't have Samuel has him eat the meat that was set apart.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the shank. Now I wanted to look at that specifically. I did not.
That was funny. In mine, it says the shoulder.
Yeah, the shoulder. I think that's what it.
I would think that. Yeah, well, it's the opposite of the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't figure that one out.
In my notes in the Jewish Bible, it says that's usually reserved for the priest.
Yeah, that's what I see too.
Yeah.
I was going to look at. I was going to look at Jacob's story.
Oh.
Did you get it?
Too.
And let's see here.
Good. Well, when over Esau's place.
Well, when he fights the Lord and he touches his
the thigh, and the thigh goes out.
The thigh goes out. Now I was seeing if that was connected there. There we go. Here we go. I'm finding it now. So verse 32, therefore to this day the children of Israel do not eat the muscle that shrank, which is in the hip socket, because he touched the socket. So that's things sounded familiar to me. I don't think it's the same, but I was kind of wondering. And so it's the story of Jacob is my favorite story in the Bible. And so we're doing a little bit of it on Sunday.
Peter.
Well, I like Peter too. I like Peter too.
I thought it was the Exodus.
Yeah, Exodus. Yeah, I have a lot of favorites. I have a lot of favorites, and so all right. So he feeds them those things, and it's kind of this kind of set apart. Set apart is also sanctified, as that's kind of the big churchy word for set apart. So kind of holy. Like, let's see. So he spoke on top of the house, and get up, and I may send you on your way. And Saul arose, and both of them went outside, he and Samuel. And let me announce what. And then the last verse is, as they were going down the outskirts of the cities, Samuel said to Saul, tell the servant to go ahead of us. And he went on, but you stand here a while, and I may announce to you the word of the Lord. So they anoint him king. So any other?
At that point, they knew that, I don't know if Saul, did he know that they were looking for a king for every, did he realize that?
We get no indication of that.
I don't think so.
And that was
That was a big surprise.
Yeah, they sit at the head of the table.
Yeah.
Eating all the best food.
Yeah.
He's probably going, what's Saul?
Yeah.
I'm looking for donkeys.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of
rich. He doesn't have any of that with him, so he's
So-
got to be wondering what's going on.
and that's kind of the sense that the Hebrew Study Bible gives, where they're like all these things. It's almost like a comedy of errors that leads them to Samuel's door type of thing. That's kind of how they handle the notes for that, as kind of God leading kind of throughout there. I don't know. Were there any other ideas from our readings today? Well, we got there 7, 8, and 9. That ain't bad. That ain't bad. So good deal. It's good seeing everyone. My plan is to meet next week. Remember, next Wednesday we are doing Best Christmas Pageant Ever. We're probably going to sing some songs around that. We're going to sing some Christmas carols. If you have not read Best Christmas Pageant Ever, there's a book right there.
We got a couple.
I think there's a couple that were returned. Yeah. Like it's a fun story.
It's cute.
And so, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it's such a small. It doesn't take long to read.
Doing that.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was confused. Oh man. It'll be yeah, it'll all be recorded. It'll all be recorded, just like last night's. And that one last night actually did well in the live streaming too. So that was, but let's see. So thanks for coming. So